Welcome back, everybody. It's another evening of Talk Openly, Lions Roar Dharma Center's little podcast we got going. My name's Jack, and I'm here with my excellent and just always wonderful and kind Sangha friend Daniel. I don't mean to like force high expectations on you, but those are that's what I feel about you. So I hope that's okay.
Aw. Well, if it was your intention to warm my heart, that introduction certainly did it.
Certainly part of it, but true. That's how I
Good,
feel.
lovely. That's nice
Yeah.
to hear. Can you see how big my head's getting? Or
Yeah, because of the hair? Because you're growing your hair out?
yeah, I've got so much hair that it's
I'm so
no.
bad at dad jokes. I have to say, I get like I get lost.
No, I was saying my head was getting big from your
I
sweetness.
know. Yeah, I got it. I got it
Okay.
later.
Well, it is late in the day.
Oh my God, yeah, it sure is. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
tired. How are you?
I'm not tired.
Great.
Yeah, so it'll be
Fantastic.
nicely balanced. I feel pretty energized. I ate some chocolate covered coffee beans earlier.
What? Okay. Well, you know what's interesting is that as we're starting to talk, I feel like I'm gathering my energy, the energy, the wind channels in my
There you
body,
go.
right? We're going to be talking
Yeah.
about body and meditation tonight, and I kind of feel like my channels are opening up. I'm a little bit more my eyes are a little bit wider. I'm not quite as the energy of like where it's almost like there's a depression. Like that's what it feels like is kind of, and not like depressed as in mentally, but just kind of like a physical depression.
Mhm.
And I literally felt like if I laid down, I would fall asleep and could just fall asleep for many hours. So
Oh my
yeah, but
gosh,
this is good.
it's gonna feel so good when you're done with the show and you tuck in for bed, drift off.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Yeah. We're going
nice.
to be talking about bodies tonight and yeah, all the ways that we can meditate using the body and all the things that happen in meditation with the body. I mean, we're going to try. We're going to try and cover all the topics, right? There's a lot to talk about. But I'm looking forward to it.
Heck yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Tell me about your week. So what's been going on with training? What's been going on with your life?
Yeah, I kind of both of those things go together. I had an unexpected retreat this weekend. Yeah.
Okay.
So a friend of mine had invited me to go up to Fort Bragg on the northern coast of California to go mushroom hunting
Yes.
on Saturday. And so I was heading up to go I was going to go do that. Before I left Sacramento, he said, "Hey, besides mushroom hunting, is there anything else that you'd like to do while you're up here?" And I thought about it and I was like, I remember seeing some Buddhist monks walking around in Fort Bragg with their, doing their alms rounds.
Yeah.
And I thought, so I know there's a place to meditate. And so I looked it up and I found the Three Jewels Dhamma Meditation Hall. And so,
Hmm.
which is where these monks are from. And so I said, well, if you're interested, we could, like if you're down for it, like we could go do this thing, but no pressure, I get it. And then he
Hmm.
says, you wouldn't believe it, but I've never meditated in my life. And last night I was laying there trying to meditate and Googled how to meditate. And he's like, I was struggling with how to do it and what to do, but I knew that it would be good for me to do it. And he goes, now here you're
Yeah.
telling me, let's go and meditate with some monks. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so it was really cool. The drive to Fort Bragg and back, I usually listen to Dharma talks, and I had this absolutely amazing Mahamudra Dharma talk by Jetson Khandro Rinpoche. It was
Hmm.
marvelous. Oh my God, I love one of the nice things about long drives is you can listen to long Dharma talks, and really get
Yeah.
into it. So absolutely fantastic. And then there's another Dharma talk, or it's not a Dharma talk, but it's a reading on YouTube that is called The Talk That Nobody Wants to Hear.
Uh-oh.
It's by a Zen teacher. And the talk, it's like the whole reading is like, I think 20, 30 minutes, somewhere in there. And and it's all about what we think practice is and what practice is, right? What we want
Mm,
from practice and what practice is. I've listened to that talk now 4 or 5 times, right? Like just it's so like so like to the point for me. It's
yeah.
fantastic. So anyway, spend Saturday meditating out in the forest, taking a forest bath in the woods,
Mm,
picking mushrooms for 7 hours. It was just
amazing.
oh my God, it went by so fast. Like we had no intention to be out there for seven. We were gonna go for like 2 hours. It felt like
Yeah,
2 hours, but forest time is different.
it
And so
is.
so yeah, 7 hours later we emerged with tons of all kinds of mushrooms and oh my
Yeah.
gosh, so many different mushrooms. It's
Any
wonderful.
edibles?
Oh, that's all we were getting. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all you were getting.
Yeah, we
Okay.
got
Yeah.
hedgehog mushrooms, we got chanterelles,
Oh my
we got
gosh.
yellowfoot mushrooms, and one of my absolute favorites, we got the candy cat mushrooms, the ones
I
that
love
taste, yeah,
them.
like maple syrup. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's super exciting. What a great day.
I know, but the crazy part
But
was
then
this.
the next
Yeah,
part.
then
Yeah.
in the evening, like so we get back from this and we're like, oh, got to clean up and go, right? It's time to go meditate. I had no idea. I've never meditated. They're in the Thai forest tradition,
Yeah.
Ajahn Chah, I think it is. And never, I don't know anything about it. Never been there before. Never talked to
Yeah.
these guys
Yeah.
before. Nothing. And so my friend who was super nervous, he was like, I don't know what's going on. We drive to this house. It's all dark. It's just like a house, somebody's house on a road. We pull in, and it did have a tiny little sign. And we knock on the door. It's all dark. I'm like, this is weird, but I know that's supposed to be here tonight. So I knock on the door, and a monk comes walking up and he's like, can I help you guys? And I was like, I heard there was meditation tonight. And he goes, oh, yeah. Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And, and so then apparently they're not used to the public actually joining them.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So they have a straw bale construction meditation hall. It is wonderful, fantastic.
Hmm.
They we went in. They didn't like there was very basic, very elementary meditation instructions for my friend's benefit. Other than that, there was no other discussion, no nothing. Just
Yeah.
there was no like, oh, we're gonna meditate for so long, nothing. Just like, all right, let's go. And then that was 45 minutes, right?
Nice.
And it was
Whoa.
it was wonderful. It was fantastic. And I was worried about my friend.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
said, no, I felt like 10 or 15 minutes. Like that was, amazing. And he liked it so
Wow.
much that we brought his wife and his wife's mom along with us the next day and went again.
Oh, I love
Yeah, now they're all
that.
kind of connected because the meditation hall is just open at all. It's just always open. And they said
Really?
anybody can come in anytime and meditate. No, you don't have to ask. You don't have to anything. You just go walk right in and meditate if you want to. And this place is
Wow.
like just a few minutes. It's just down the road from my friend's house. So and
Wow.
and he now because he made this connection. It was really cool because my friend roasts coffee and
Mm,
one of the monks said we were talking about their traditions. They're super traditionalist, right? They don't
yeah.
touch money. They only eat food, that's donated to them. They don't cook for themselves, none of that. And
Yeah.
so he's all excited. They said they could drink coffee and they liked it. So he's gonna
Well, great.
yeah, so he's gonna bring him some coffee. I'm looking forward to I'm hoping that they create a connection.
That sounds just like so much goodness all
It
wrapped into
was,
one
Jack.
weekend.
It was really amazing. All of it, the drive and the mushrooms and the meditating and all of it. I felt, oh my God, I got back. I was like on cloud nine.
It's so wholesome.
So wholesome. So,
And I love that, like, it's just so like the way that Dharma can just like open up to you, where just one little thing, like where a friend can, suggest, like, hey, like, would you be interested in doing this? No worries, like if you don't
yeah.
want to, or like, hey, have you read this book? This is really cool. And it just completely opens up your world.
Yeah,
And
there's
so
always
that,
those people along the way, right?
right.
Anytime you hear anybody's discussion about how they came to the Dharma and what it was like, they're always like these like people along the way, who kind of just like think just did like a little something.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Um,
It's that interdependence that We
Correct.
really cannot do it alone.
No.
We're all constantly helping each other along the way, even if we don't realize it.
Isn't it
But
beautiful?
it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that story. That
Yeah.
felt really good. And
It
just
was.
imagining being in
Yeah.
Fort Bragg too, like it's such a sensual place, right? Like just completely opens all the senses um and I think that I may have seen that monastery before. Because I remember is it kind of on the one, like the one highway, the
Yeah, it's
PCH?
right off. It's right. I mean, it's not
Okay,
on. It's not on. You go up, you have to go up a little
it's right
road,
up. Hmm.
but it is off of one. Yeah, they're part of the oh, I forget. I don't know how to say it, and I don't remember the name of the monastery, but it's in Redwood Valley, which is
Yeah.
up on off 101, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this meditation hall is like an offshoot of the monastery.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've driven by it before. Like before I started going to the temple to Lions Roar. And I just remember those like these few flashes of where I would see Buddhism like out in the world before I, decided to approach it. I was just like, wow, that everything about that seems amazing. And I'm just gonna keep living my life for a while,
Yeah. Right?
Like
Right.
I remember it was so interesting in around like middle school time. Um in our neighborhood there sprung up this Buddhist temple. Just kind of like out of the blue, it like this temple came where a Christian church used to be. And I remember I used to drive by it every day to get to school. And I would see they had this big, like amazing, like golden Buddha out in front. Um, and it was this really bright, like yellow. The whole temple was like bright yellow. And I was just like, this is intense and kind of amazing. And I remember feeling that kind of like pull, you know?
Mm.
Um, and that was around the time I think my friend also gave me a book about from Thich Nhat Hanh, and I think I had mentioned that I was interested or something. And so, yeah, it's like these little threads that get put
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully those
Mm,
threads go on and on for many lifetimes.
yeah, yeah, I hope so too.
So Jack, what about that? That was my little story about since we last met. What about you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Um my training is consistent, and uh, both consistent and all over the place, right? So my actual sitting on the cushion, I do it. That's always the same, and then the meditation itself is always different. And so that's just kind of fun to observe. I do notice that my morning practices are much loopier. Like I'm just
Oh.
even if I try and wake up a little bit earlier to try and wake myself more, my mind is not as clear as in the evening, which is
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
So I kind of play around with that a little bit. Um, but yeah, I've had some interesting kind of um, just recognitions, I think, over the last few days. I attended a therapy session where we were talking about um, like fulfillment and like what brings me fulfillment. And I was originally, I was kind because it I was talking about this in the context of relationships and friendships and activities, and then I was just searching with her a little bit more about what I don't like. Yeah, those things are good, but they don't feel like fulfilling in the way that like my art or my spiritual practice do. And for whatever reason, like Matt, that really like brought up like a lot of emotion in me. And I was trying to kind of like think about it later, like why did that feel so emotional? And I think part of it is that like I feel kind of weird that like entertainment and, you know, sex relationships are not necessarily the things that are interesting to me.
Hmm.
And I think I've always felt just kind of like a little bit of a weirdo because of that.
Yeah, you think is there's like a sense that there's something like, is it possible that there's something wrong with me?
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Um, but there was all, and I think what happened on Saturday when I was talking about this was just a recognition that like, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. And actually, that's what my Dharma training is like trying to teach me is that what is fulfillment and what is real, genuine happiness is not found in those things that I was trying to find fulfillment in. And it doesn't mean that I can't do those things, you know, but just to see them for what they are rather than trying to over and over make them into what they're not, you know.
Yeah.
They're not fulfilling. And that's okay, you know, like that's the world
Right.
I live in.
Yeah, just like, like a nice piece of like a German chocolate cake may not be fulfilling in the long run because, at some point you're gonna be like, well, that cake's gone, right? But at least there's the experience of it, and that's
Mm,
oh yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think, you know, there's sometimes even I don't know if this happens for you, but kind of like a dissatisfaction even when like experiencing it. And I don't know what that's all about. Maybe I just need to chill out and enjoy it. but but sometimes I'm
It
just
could,
like,
do you
oh
think,
man,
without getting too much into the terminology or the lingo,
yeah.
is it possible that as we maybe move closer towards what might be referred to as one taste, that we begin to sort of see like, oh, right, there's just a like whatever. Oh, look, that is an orgasm. Right.
Hmm.
Oh, that
Great.
is a
Hmm.
okay. Like it's
Hmm.
just like I like whatever. Let's say that you feel intense whatever. Let's say you have an orgasm on Saturday and then you have intense grieving and loss over, a lost pet or something like that the
Hmm.
following day. You might
Hmm.
begin to sort of recognize like, oh, like these are just qualities. These are just
Yeah.
these are, they're these sort of ephemeral, fleeting things, right?
Yeah.
And, on the one hand, it might free you up, not you, might free us up, when we're aware of it to enjoy it and be like, this is the last German chocolate cake orgasm I'm ever gonna have in my life, right?
Yeah.
It could
Yeah.
free us up that way, but I can also see how it could be a little bit like, there was something special about that one feeling or that one sensation,
Yeah.
that one form or whatever it was. And it used to be magical, but now it's just sort of like everything else.
Right. Yeah, there's this kind of element of like disenchantment,
Yeah.
you know, where it's kind of like,
Disenchantment. Oh,
oh
yeah.
man.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Um, but then I think there's this we have to move through the disenchantment and like the renunciation to get to like the real actual falling in love with the world as it is, you know, as Lama um has said before about falling in love, right? Falling in love with our world. And again, like not for what it isn't. Like it isn't going to fulfill us. It isn't going to bring true happiness. But what it is like this interdependent phenomena that can teach me about, you know, how I actually am in this world and bring about liberation, right? So um that is amazing.
Right. That
Yeah.
that 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 the truth itself is as satisfying as anything possibly could be, right?
Yeah.
We feel deep fulfillment when we're living in harmony with the Dharma, right? When we
Yeah.
feel like when we're living in harmony with life itself, right,
Yeah.
as it is, when we're
Yeah.
seeing as clearly as we can see. right? And we're living as much in harmony, we feel incredibly fulfilled. We're not, the words fulfillment or the thought of fulfillment doesn't even, you're so fulfilled that the notion of being fulfilled or not fulfilled isn't even there, right? But
Yeah.
then there's this sort of like, like we were talking about last week, it's like an elliptical for us, right? It's not constant for us. We drop
Hmm.
in and out of that, right? And we become a little like, we are trying to find this balance, but we find ourselves bouncing between these sort of more extreme ends of things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking a little bit later when we talk about the body about a nice experience I had out by the water a few days ago. Um, and it was this type of fulfillment and ease um, and peace of mind and presence that is just, it can't be touched by other kinds of pleasure, like there's nothing like it. And I don't have like anywhere near like realization as, our teacher or the Buddha, right? And so I can only imagine, like what that's like to
Do you think
fully,
that
yeah.
what you're talking about, I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but it seems to me, when I first heard the word bliss, I equated that with pleasure,
Mm,
right? And I thought,
hmm.
oh, extreme pleasure. But that's not it either, right?
Yeah,
But like what
yeah.
you're alluding to, I think is what would be traditionally referred to as bliss, right? And
Yeah.
that blissfulness is, it's hard to use words to describe what it's like because it's not like it's not super excited, it's not super depressed, it's not, it's like super mundane,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just very much there in it, right? Without much else going on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, so um it's been an interesting couple days and
I'm looking forward to
doing an
hearing. I want to hear about it. I
yeah,
want to hear that story.
for sure. Yeah, I'm also doing an art class, and so that's been a fun way to kind of explore other parts of my mind. And so yeah, life is happening and all the things, right?
All the things. All
It's
right.
good.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad that it's happening.
thank you. Yeah. Shall we do some Lojong, some mind training?
Let us continue with our mind training.
Get our mind beefed up?
Yeah. I don't know if you can tell on your end or not. I am having on my end some technical difficulties with my screen, but like there's
Looking
some,
okay from here.
okay, there's some flickering going on, but that's all right.
Okay, let's see here. Number 32. Don't wait in ambush. So Toyam Trumpa says, the Tibetan version of this slogan literally says, don't ambush. That is, wait for somebody to fall down so that you can attack. You are waiting for that person to fall into the trap or problem you want or expect. You want them to have that misfortune, and you hope that misfortune will take place in a way which will allow you to attack. Yeesh. Have you been there, Daniel? I think I've been there.
I've definitely been there. I've definitely been there. I mean,
Yeah.
I think maybe where I'm at right now is, so you see this last sentence where it says you want them to have that misfortune and you hope that misfortune will take place in a way that which will allow you to attack. I think that where there's some progress here is that
Mm,
all of that's been true. That yes, in fact, I have had that experience many, 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 many times. I think slowly, gradually, the last little part of that sentence is beginning to fade. So I'm still wanting them to have that misfortune and wishing
mm,
that the misfortune will take place and hoping that that should be sufficient. Like I want the universe to attack
yeah,
for me,
totally.
right? Like I'm like,
Yes.
nah, I don't need to do anything. Nah, I don't need to kick them when they're down. I just want them to go down.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. I could name
Is
a
that
number.
progress, Jack?
I think that is absolutely
Okay.
that is progress.
Oh, good.
You're not mounting the attack, right?
Good.
That I think that is like absolutely reducing the suffering that you're
I,
yeah.
I'm working on this. I'm working on the hoping that wanting them to have it and hoping that it'll happen. And now what I'm beginning to recognize actually when I'm wishing when I'm like there's definitely plenty of times where I witness that I'm like, yeah, I hope that like whatever that bad thing is gonna happen to you. Like common in driving, right? I had this woman who was like zooming around and doing crazy stuff the other day, like just wild, reckless abandon,
Mm,
And on I was so proud of myself. I was like, okay, just all right, give her a little space or whatever. It's okay. And then I noticed my mind, I hope she, gets a ticket or gets into a wreck or something. And then I was like,
yeah.
whoa, dude, is
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
really
Yeah.
your intention? Or do you really just want her to not hurt herself or anybody else? And I was like,
Yeah.
all right.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, but you could walk yourself back, right? You caught it.
What about
Yeah,
you?
this is
What's
a
your
good one.
what's your take on this whole thing?
I could definitely see this happening. Definitely not as much, but it still kind of lingers in kind of close relationships.
Mm,
I would do this a lot with my sister when we were growing up, just waiting for her to screw up because I really wanted reasons to hurt her in a lot of ways. And then I can see that happening in my partnership, and that I kind of see these patterns in how he behaves, things that like uh, bother me or that like I've talked with him about. And so then I'm kind of just like, oh, here we go again. Okay, like I can see it happening. And then if I wanted to be, I could be pretty bitchy about it, right?
hmm
Um, and so I do notice like I have a hard time letting things go when it's like when I feel justified, right? When it feels like, no, but I'm right about this.
I'm right
Like
about this.
I'm
That's
really
right.
right. And like you fucked up again in this
Yeah.
way. So like you should know.
Ooh.
And it's like it's a really icky place
Uh,
in my
I
heart,
know it. I
right?
know it. It's interesting. While you were talking about it, I was thinking it's so interesting how um part of the way that this sort of wanting them to have misfortune, it's strange how that's related to our knowingness about like rightness and wrongness and
Mm.
right? Like, isn't that kind of where you're like there's a
Uh-huh.
right way to do things, a wrong way to do things. I'm right, they're wrong. Then they do the thing that was wrong, right? Or whatever. They do the thing as according to their view or whatever, and then bad things happen. And there's sort of this like, yeah, like you want karma, you want them to reap their karma right away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's ugly. It's an ugly mind.
Ew, yeah, that's a stinky one.
It's real stinky. Yeah. So who's this?
Bodhisattva Padmapani.
Sweet.
That is a very, very nice little statue. Cool.
I like that. Whatever kind of is like a chain, a very large. I don't know what that is, but it's very cool. Or like a whip of some kind. I can't even
Are they
figure
are
out
they
what that would
like
be.
lotus flowers?
Oh, that would make more sense
I
than a
think they
chain
might.
or a whip.
Yeah, they look kind in their wrathful form. It's a whip.
There you go.
Ah,
Oh
fun
man.
times, fun times.
Well, Daniel, this has been
Yeah,
lovely so far.
yeah.
I
So far, so good.
appreciate our discussions. Um, and yeah, tonight we're gonna be talking about the body and meditation. And it's interesting, like for me, um, I don't necessarily think of the body first when I start my meditation practice. And I think that's actually a pretty big fault of mine. It's something that I need to be working on. Because I think, as we're going to see, the body can be a real source of stabilization and meditation, as well as an interesting focus. Um, so, yeah, I gotta get you know, out from here sometimes and kind of bring it down. Yeah.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, that's
Hmm.
I hear you. Not focusing on the body is a mistake. In my own experience, if I don't do that, so if I don't do what I need to do with my body, and that's sort of twofold. One is, you know, give it a little bit of some stretching and help it be a little bit more supple, right? And kind of
Hmm.
get physically ready, like doing a little yoga, doing a little stretching, really helpful, right? But then the second, that's the physical, doing something with the body and getting my posture right. And really, if I
Hmm.
don't spend time doing that, then my meditation is of, it's like a lower quality or something, right? Like
Yeah.
it takes me longer to settle down if I don't do that. And then the other part of it is exactly this, what we're talking about, this awareness, this body awareness. When I do sink in and come in and really be mindful of my body to start with, it's super grounding. But like you,
Mm,
I oftentimes just jump straight in and I'm like, oh, let me just go in straight to the most unstable thing out there, which is this mind.
yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Why do you think that is that we kind of just jump
It's more fun.
into?
That's my happy place.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That's where I
Yeah.
want to be. I could spend all day up in my mind, in, in my thoughts.
Right. Yeah, and I think for me too, I don't know if you've noticed this, but when I do start to focus on the body, like I notice quite a lot of discomfort,
Yeah.
like all throughout my body. And like not all the time and not everywhere all the time, but it's really present. And that's for someone who like I don't have any chronic pain issues. Like I don't have any acute pain issues right now, gratefully. Um, and I'm relatively pretty healthy, right? And so even then, like when I really come to a recognition of my body, it's like there's a lot of tension there. There's like little aches and pains. My limbs fall asleep, right? Like my clothes might start feeling like uncomfortable in a certain place. I get itchy,
Yeah.
right? It's like this body is just it's such a source of information that we can really train with.
Well, I like what you said there. It's a source of information. It's talking to us all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And what it's, I mean, it's like literally every single part of our body constantly talking to us. And it's just that we've sort of tuned out a lot of it. And then when we tune back in via meditation, just like when we tune into our mind, when we've sort of been, just going along with the thoughts and not thinking about them, or not watching, observing them, is that there's
Right.
this like, uh, hang on, Jack, I'm sorry. My
You
screen,
got some flashing lights over there.
do
Yeah,
you
it says,
see it?
yeah, you're strobing over there.
This is a little, it's like totally strobing. Let me try something here. Um, Hopefully
Well,
this,
maybe as you kind of work with that,
yeah, sorry.
I can talk about the what the Dharma says, what the sutras say about practicing with the body. In the Pali Canon, there's the Satipatthana Sutra, and that's a sutra about the four foundations of mindfulness. And it's kind of mindfulness of the entire human experience. And the first is the body. Um, and second is feelings, third is the mind, and fourth is the objects of mind. And so we're going to be talking about the first, which is mindfulness of the body. And it goes through all these different points that I think are really helpful. Um, and I don't know what would be a good start. There's many points that the sutra talks about here about the body. Maybe we can talk about ones that we found to be particularly resonant. What do you think?
Yeah, no, so that sutra is, uh, it's really, really good, right? Like in terms of it, I just earlier I went out for a walk and I listened to a version of it where somebody read it. And it was just, I've not, like I've had little pieces of it, but never actually read it myself. But listening to somebody read it was darn good, and I re, it, like it really kind of brought me in. Just listening to it helped me to like come in, right? And I
Mm.
realized that one of these sort of 14 topics that it brings up for contemplation is one of the ones that's been most important to me is the limitations of the body, right? And I remember
Yeah.
before I even came to Buddhism, I remember a massive shift in what I understood about reality happened when I was listening to this Swami Sarva Priyananda, do a guided meditation on what's called neti neti, not this, not that,
Mm.
not this, not
Mm.
that, not that. And it was basically, going through the body. A lot of it was going through the body and being like, well, is the self, is the fingernail the self? Like,
Mm.
and then be like, oh, and guy, and as we were going through it, like literally every aspect of my existence, including my body, I could clearly see that the self was not there, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not they could not be the self. And that is like that was mind-bending to me, and that I know
Mm-hmm.
that's a bit sort of far out there, but there are all these other aspects to it, both in terms of just the physical practice of being aware of our breath and our posture and the sensations, right? But then, and so there's this one aspect of it that's incredibly physical. But then, if you wanted to go sort of like analytical on it, then there's all these other sort of reflections on like what the body's made of, right? What are its
Mm-hmm.
constituent parts? What's this body like in death as it decays and falls
Right.
apart? And all of that, man, is so helpful.
Absolutely.
It loosens, right? So the source of our suffering is this misperceived self, right? This identification with what we kind of sense
Hmm.
as like some kind of a permanent self. What is it that's like we're most identified with, right? Like it's this body, like everybody, right? All of us have the same
Yeah.
problem. We all think this body is us, right? And then if we begin to disidentify with the body, it's a great place to begin to loosen the grip.
Right. Right. Yeah, because I think like we can like get through almost, and I haven't, but like we it's easier to imagine the body as not being ours, whereas like the mind, there's like some kind of abstraction there where it's like, no, but like that's me.
Yeah.
Like that's where it's at. um and there's this interesting kind of thought experiment that is in kind of like modern consciousness studies, where they ask you to imagine like, what if you could get an entire like brain transplant where like your brain was taken out of your head and you were kept alive, right? But your brain was in a vat somewhere. Like, where would you be? Like, where would your consciousness be? And like, what would be you, right? um, and I found that like fascinating, because it's like I don't know, like I can't find me in any of that stuff. And so it's yeah, like you were saying, that kind of disidentification is kind of okay. We can start with the body. It's like this material thing that like, okay, yeah, I can see that I die, that I'm not going to keep this body. This is as Thupten Chodron says, is like it's this guest house,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
my consciousness has entered this body and I'm here for however long I'm going to be here, and then I have to leave the guest house and
Yeah.
into go into another one. But it's kind of, yeah, I think then the next step is like, okay, how do we then disidentify with like that consciousness, right? That then goes into the next body, that's also um not permanent, or this kind of lasting self, this lasting thing. um, so yeah, super, super interesting stuff.
I couldn't agree more, without a doubt.
Hmm.
And I think there's a couple of other reasons why I think um, the body's such a great place to start with. Besides what we've already mentioned, one of the things that I really like about it, and helped me in the beginning, was that it's not a spiritual practice, right?
Mm.
So I had
Hmm.
all kinds of misgivings about what meditation was and was not, and there was some sense because I came from a religious background that anything that was coming from, a spiritual tradition was going to be religious in nature, and
Yeah.
that bothered me, But it was totally, I had no problem doing body scans because that's neutral, right? There's nothing supposedly, right? Like it
Mm,
appears as if there's nothing spiritual happening when you do a body scan, right?
mm-hmm,
So I
mm-hmm,
really like that it can be something that's incredibly grounding, incredibly calming. In fact, a quick little story. I just had this the other day.
mm-hmm,
One of my daughters, this is yesterday, um, contacted me from school and was like, "Hey, I'm having a panic attack. Like I'm
mm,
really anxious, and like it's not, like I'm not okay, and I feel like I need to leave, but it's finals week, and I'm stressing out, and
yeah.
whatever, right?" And I was like, okay, there's no, if it's an emergency, go see the nurse. But other than that, here's what you can do. And it was all about coming back into the body, like,
Mm,
feel the breath, feel your feet and the ground, right? Like touch your body, feel your body, come here, be
yeah.
alive with your senses. And what was really interesting is, while she said later, she said, I did do those things, and it didn't like make it go away completely. She goes, but it did allow me to like make it through and keep going, you know.
Yeah,
And so like it has these really practical effects as well to be aware of our breath and aware of our bodies, mindful.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, the body can be such an anchor to like our surroundings,
Yeah.
right? We're not separate from all of this.
No, no.
And I think,
Right.
especially with anxiety, we get so in our heads and we
Ah,
kind of, get separated from the rest of what's happening. And all the stories, the narratives that can just, freak us out.
yeah.
They're disconnected from reality. And so, yeah, coming back to, okay, what's actually here, and checking in with the senses. I actually, so what I was mentioning earlier about kind of being out at the water was an experience of that kind of coming into space almost. It was that feeling of just kind of arriving, like, okay, I'm back here. Like I had I hadn't done my meditation Monday morning before work yet. It was kind of like a oh, I I started the week off right. um but so I ended up being able to take a long lunch because I had a no-show before my lunch. And so I went out to the water. There's a beach pretty close to where I work. And it's a really beautiful drive, like kind of through the forest, and then you arrive, and uh, it's just gorgeous beach on the Sound. And it was this day where the water was so still, and it was cloudy enough that like it wasn't bright, but it wasn't too cold. And so I did my meditation out there, and my intention with the shamatha was I wanted to just experience the environment. So I wanted to experience what was happening around me. And through like trying to focus on that, I realized that everything that I was uh, trying to focus on within the environment was right. It was mediated through my body, right? And that sounds so simple, but it was like it felt very profound, that it was like, okay, when I look at the water and I focus on what I can see and the mountains and the islands, um that's mediated through my eye consciousness, right? My eyes. And then I can smell, the ocean air, the note, like the kind of scent consciousness, and then like feeling temperature, feeling sand, all of this was mediated through my body. And I could just feel like this sense of, yeah, like I said earlier, kind of like arrival, and non-separateness in this feeling that, oh yes, I'm not this distinct being. I'm part of this. Um, and I wonder if the water is also seeing me, like, or when I touch the water, like, how does the water experience that? There's this kind of exchange that's happening, even if it's on somewhat of a micro level. And so, yeah, the body was it was a yeah, strong meditation, in that I really just could sense that my body is not separate from the environment. My body is the
Welcome back,
environment,
everybody.
right?
Another evening of Talk Openly.
What's happening over there?
It's a complete meltdown over here on my
Your
computer.
computer's just,
It's
yeah,
it's like
tripping
you can
out.
see it blinking like crazy. I don't know. It's the first time it's okay. There we go.
Yeah, good.
Did you lose when you were having this experience? Did you lose touch with your body? Like, did the body kind of disappear?
There were kind of very brief moments of that. I have had that kind of experience before, where there's a sense of like merging, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like merging with
right.
my surroundings. It feels, yeah, like, if again, that kind of bliss that we were talking about earlier, um, where it's like both being distinct and not separate at the same time, if that makes sense. Like, do you have that sense of like, okay, yes, I'm here, but I'm also completely not how I think that I am here, you know?
Yeah.
There's this just kind of unity, and unity, yet also being my own kind of part of it.
I love the way you described it because to me that's sort of like the hallmark of a transcendental experience, right? Is that
Mm,
the it's when we oftentimes when we first hear the word or the concept of transcendence, we think of it like of escaping and into something else. But transcendence always includes whatever it transcends, right?
mm,
So
mm-hmm,
there's this experience where you sort of sometimes may transcend the body in the sense that you have this recognition that there isn't really an inner and outer
mm,
objective, subjective, sort of dualistic world, and there's like a, an awareness of that, a mini realization of that, or something, right? There's something kind of like that that's going on there, but at the same time, as you said, you fully recognize that you're here in this body.
yeah,
Like it's both.
yeah, yeah. Like, we don't go away. Like, I think um
Yeah, we
that's an
don't go
important part
away.
of Buddhist thought, right? Is that, like, we're not veering into nihilism. We
Mm,
don't dissolve. Like, we are here.
yeah.
Um, and yet we're also not separate. And I think that's, that maybe what makes it hard for me to kind of understand is that I have been trained, right, in this kind of very dualistic, have to transcend the body in order to have some kind of spiritual experience. And I think part of the Buddha's teaching was that, we don't deny the body. Like, we don't deny that the body exists. We don't deny that we need to take care of the body. And in fact, the body is a vessel, and we're using it along the path, and we can use it in meditation to learn some of these things that we need to learn along the path. So that part's important too. Is like, not it's not about the self abnegation of the body, right? Not about
No.
denial. Yeah.
No. So wait,
Mm.
you're saying that that self-flagellation practice that I've been engaged in, I'm not supposed that's
Yeah, it's not working, dude.
oh
Yeah.
man. Well, no, that's good. I'm glad I can get rid of that.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
punish the body. The body is a support
Right.
for our meditation, for our lives, right? So
Yeah.
absolutely, of course, we wouldn't be able to do this practice without it,
Yeah. Right.
right? I mean, maybe, but I haven't, not yet.
Yeah, right. I think another thing that comes up a lot for me with meditation on the body is how it can really tune me into impermanence. Um,
Can you say that again?
how the body can remind me of impermanence, right?
Oh,
That's this kind of this ever-present change. And that happens in a number of ways. One is like the kind of longer term change that happens, like I'm noticing, yeah, I'm looking older than I was looking through
yeah.
pictures right from 10 years ago and I was like, yeah, I was 26 then. So yes, I look younger then. Yes, yeah.
No, duh.
um, right. And it's just funny because I wasn't expecting to see a lot of changes, right? But sure enough, yeah, there's the body like I'm aging, sure enough. And then kind of like the more minute ways during meditation is that like um uh our good friend Susan, she taught us to do a meditation on pain, right? And how you can look into the experience of pain in the body and recognize it and notice how it can shift, even if just subtly over the course of the meditation. And so we can have this experience of like, okay, yeah, things are not as solid as we think they are, especially something like pain that can really grip the mind, right? Like pain
Yeah.
really feels like a solid experience, but it's not, it's shifting constantly. I
I'm
think
so
that one's
glad
super
you
interesting.
I'm glad you brought it up. I was thinking about Pain and Sue as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely getting similar vibes here. I one of the things that I really like about Pain is that like you said, it feels very solid, very real. And there's a fear that this solid, real thing is going to stick around, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
Right. And what I love about that is if it arises during meditation, or if you can be mindful of it, but if it shows up when in meditation, I think it's a fantastic object, right? So like
Mhm.
it's good to work with stable objects. And if in fact it's true that this pain is solid and real and with you, right? Then you should be able to use it as an object of concentration because it's not going anywhere, right? Like it's here, right? Like that pain in your knee. Oh, it's so bad and it's always there and whatever, right? And then you shift your mind. You're like, okay, I'm just going to focus on the pain in my knee. That's it. And it's all I'm going to focus on. And you're like, oh, super aware. And 10 seconds later, you're like thinking about the squirrel and like there's no pain. And then you remember, oh, the pain in my knee. That's right. That's what I'm supposed to be paying attention to. So you
Right,
bring your
right,
awareness back to the pain in your knee, but now it's like a little bit different. And then you try it again, and pretty soon there's no pain in your knee, and you're like, what was that all about?
right. Yeah. It's so funny. What funny little brains we have sometimes, right?
I know. But all of the truths, right? The entirety of the truth is contained in the body, right? Like in
Mm,
the sense
hmm.
that all of the truths about impermanence, interconnectedness, interdependence, emptiness, however you want to phrase this, right? Like all of that is right here, right? So
Yeah.
we can witness it, as you said, on sort of like very temporary, short scale, right? Like the knee
Hmm.
pain during meditation. We can witness it more long term, like our own aging and stuff, right? The sutra that was we mentioned at the outset, it suggests meditating on the bodies once they're gone as well. And I have this
Mm.
kind of funny story right now that's relevant. So one of the kids that I live with here had pet rats who died,
Yeah.
and they decided to practice taxidermy on them. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Right on. That's awesome.
Yeah. All this I'm fully in support of. Part of this though was getting these beetles that eat bodies, right? So there's a
Oh,
currently out in the garage, there's a rat body that has been nearly entirely, it's got like maybe one more day of the beetles eating away at it. But it was really amazing to watch, right? Like take the whole, like put the rat body in, right? And then to see
Yeah.
it's full, it's complete. And then like these little beetles show up, right? And they start eating it. And then now like day after day, I'm like, look at that. It is going into the air. I can smell it. It stinks, right? Look at this. It's
Yeah.
disappearing. I can see the beetles growing. I can see them increasing. I can see the rat decreasing. All this interconnectedness, all this impermanence right there in a little rat body.
Hell yeah. That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Isn't it though? I got my
Wow.
own charnel ground out in the garage.
That's great. Do you go sit out there?
I haven't sat out there.
A little stinky.
well, I can get over it. It's just, it's cold.
It's cold.
And so, but I have spent a lot of time just looking at it, right? And
Yeah.
it's amazing to just to remember like that is this thing that I'm so attached to, that I'm
Right.
so preoccupied with. I spend so much time thinking about taking pleasing it and taking care of it and worrying about
Right.
it and all of that. It's that.
Yeah.
It's
It's
that.
flesh, bones, achy stuff.
Oh my God, dude, in
So
that
much
sutra,
achy.
when he gets into the icky stuff, oh my God, like they don't stop, right?
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna get into how foul you are. It's gonna be real fun.
Yeah, they're like, you're full of feces and
Yeah.
snot and ligament oils and
Ligament oils. Ooh, gnarly.
all kinds of stuff in there.
That's pretty great. Yeah. Yeah, it's something that I thought of today because I was listening to a talk by Thupten Chodron at Sravesti Abbey, and she was talking about this meditation of like imagining your skeleton, right? Your bones like expanding to fill the whole universe. And it's
Mhm.
just like this skeleton, like bone kind of universe. And then she is saying that, like, imagine kind of using these like x-ray goggles to see people that all of it, we're just skeletons walking around, right? And it reminded me of this movie. Do you remember that movie? And I can't remember the name of it, but where he has these like glasses that he can see through. And it's like all these kind of, it's just skeletons. and
Whoa.
I gotta find it. I'll let you know next time.
Okay.
Um, but I really appreciate that meditation of like, okay, um, I almost imagine sometimes I'll be sitting and I'll imagine like how would my skeleton look in my meditation posture right now. And uh yeah, it's ever present, right? Our impermanence, our death
Yeah.
is ever present.
Yeah,
Fit right in this body.
Shanti David does a good job when he describing the person that we're so infatuated with, the body that we're so infatuated with of our lover or whoever we're enamored by, right? And then he's like, all right, look at the skeleton, right?
Yeah.
Look at the
So
pus.
comfortable. Yeah.
What
Isn't
about the
it
feces? Ew.
right?
And
Beautiful,
you're like, God,
beautiful.
stop, Shanty Davis, stop.
I know he's so nasty sometimes.
I want to maintain my little like my illusion, my delusion.
Right, for sure. Oh, Shanti Deva, thank you. So helpful. Well, Daniel, this has been really fun.
It's all
Thank
been
you for
fun
waking me
except the
up.
blinking thing, Jack. I don't know what. I guess even the bodies of computers are impermanent and bound to fail.
They really are, man, and often, like too often, they're bound to fail. Yeah, I hope it works out.
Yeah, me
Everything
too.
gets
Yeah,
fixed.
thanks.
And for those listening, if you can make a small donation to Lions Road Dharma Center, we super appreciate it. And otherwise, hope to see you next week.
All right. See you later. Thanks,
All
everyone. Bye,
right.
Jack. Thank
Bye,
you.
Dan.